Hello everybody and welcome back to more Reading Time with Miss Nunn. For today's story, we're heading into the dark. We're staying in our bedrooms for our nighttime story, but you've got to turn off all the lights and you've got to get some torches. This one's not a very strong torch, but you might want a big one. I have a light on my phone. It's very powerful. So if your parents have a light on their phone, maybe you could borrow theirs. Right, are you ready to get into my cave? You've got to make yourself a cave. Get yourself a duvet. Are you ready to come in? Come into my cave, everybody. Hi, welcome to Miss Nunn's cave. So for this story, you have to get yourself a cave. Now, caves are really easy to make. You've made a cave in your garden, a few of you, and sent me a picture, which was fantastic. But this time you've got to make a cave in your bedroom. Nice and cosy, get some cushions if you want, but we're creating an eerie atmosphere. You might want to read a scary book. You might want to read a book that's very quiet, so you have to whisper it. See if you can read a story to maybe your brother or sister, or maybe to your mummy. But don't forget your torches so you can see. Because if you ain't got a torch, you won't be able to see in the dark, will you? No one can do that. So today we're going to read a story about the dark, and it's called The King Who Banned the Dark. I wonder, why do you think he banned the dark? Should we find out? Come on in then. Let's start up. Let's hope our cave doesn't collapse on us. Here we go. Right. There was once a little boy who was afraid of the dark. There's nothing so unusual about that. Most children are afraid of the dark at one time or another. Are you afraid of the dark? I wasn't, but when I watched a creepy film once, I was a little bit scared after that. But this little boy was a prince, and he decided that when he became king, he would do something about the dark. He would ban it. What? How do you ban the dark? What do you think is going to happen? How do you think he's going to ban the dark? On the first morning of his reign, the king told his advisers about this plan. With the greatest respect, Your Majesty, if you ban the dark just like that, the people won't understand. They'll revolt against you. Which means they'll fight against you. They won't listen to what you want them to do. But if you make them think it's their idea, it might just work. And so the advisers started to spread rumours about the dark. The dark is scary. The dark is boring. You can't play in the dark. Say no to the dark. Read all about it. The dark is stealing your money. The dark is taking your toys and sweets. That's not true. Do you think the people are going to believe him? The people had never really worried about the dark before, but all of a sudden it started to seem like a really bad thing. So they marched to the palace and demanded a ban on the dark. Very well, said the king. From now on the dark will be banished from this land. And because everyone had got what they thought they wanted, everybody thought they were happy. That makes me think that maybe they're going to work out later in our story that they weren't very happy. To make sure that it would never be dark again, an enormous artificial sun was installed above the palace. Left a bit, right a bit. That's a very big light. Even when the real sun set, the artificial sun kept shining. All day and all night it glowed in the sky. Curtains were taken down, anti-dark hats were issued, lights shone from every window 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The people stayed up all night celebrating, which was easy because it never got dark. That's Alice's dream, staying up all night. She does it already. But soon the people were tired of celebrating. In fact, they were just tired. With the lights on all the time, no one could sleep at all. And with no real night time, the days dragged on forever. Oh, look, even the teacher's falling asleep. Oh, dear. The people had made a mistake. They realised pretty quickly that they needed the dark back. But if anyone tried to switch their lights off, the light inspectors would make them pay a fine. Oh dear. It's not looking too good for them, is it? Wow, there's a lot of lights. As the king tried to sleep under the glare of 100 light bulbs, he heard shouts from outside the palace. Don't worry, Your Majesty, said the advisers. What we need is a distraction. Ooh, a distraction. What could it be? How are they going to distract the people? To get the people excited about the dark ban again, the advisers decided to throw a big party.
Great celebration of the dark ban with fireworks, the brightest thing of all. But the people weren't as silly as the king's advisers thought they were. Whisper by whisper, they hatched their own plan. On the night of the great celebration, the king stood on the roof to watch the fireworks. But the sky was so bright that when the first firework went off, nothing could be seen at all. The king sighed. Oh, that's not a very good celebration, is it? Meanwhile, elsewhere in the kingdom, a house switched off its lights. The light inspectors knocked on the door. At that moment, the lights in the house next door went off. And the lights in the house next to that. And the house next to that. The same thing was happening on the street next to that. And the street next to that. The sky began to dim. They're shouting it out. The light inspectors began to panic and called for backup. All the guards at the palace rushed to help them. And that's when, with the palace unguarded, a small group of people climbed up the walls and switched off the very last switch. Artificial sun, do not switch off. The sky went dark. The king shuddered. "We must turn the sun back on, your majesty," shouted the advisers. "We must crush the uprising. We must punish the people." "Shh," said the king. "Look." What could it be? The lights had gone out just in time for the grand finale. Wow, look at all those colours. That would be something you could do at home. Maybe you could paint some fireworks. They would look amazing, wouldn't they, in charcoal and chalks? Instead of punishing everyone, the king lifted the ban on the dark. And now, every year on the same night, the people set off fireworks in the darkness to remind themselves of what they almost lost. The king is still sometimes a little bit scared of the dark, but he sleeps with the night light these days. If only he'd done that in the first place, this whole mess could have been avoided. And that's so true. If you're scared of something, go and find out if there's something that you can do to solve it. Maybe it's not switching off all the lights and making everyone scared or changing their own minds, but maybe it's just finding something really simple, like a little nightlight, to solve your problems. I hope you enjoyed our book, and don't forget to make your own den in the dark. Bye for now.